Oh, didn't do the countdown. Sorry. All right. Hello, everybody. We're live. We're live tonight to talk about the Libertarian Party of New York 2024 petition drive. My name is Rich Bertel. I'm second vice chair, Libertarian Party of New York. Also, the temporary stand-in vice presidential candidate for the petition drive. I will be substituted by the actual candidate after the nominating convention at the end of May. The necessity of this temporary spot is because of when we have to start petitioning. We have to start petitioning on April 16th. We're finishing on May 28th. That's the final drop dead day to submit the petition. And the convention isn't until a couple days before that. So we can't hardly get 60,000 signatures in 2 days or a day and a half. So we have to petition with these temporary candidates. With me tonight is Diane Sare, U.S. Senate candidate. If you raise your hand, Diane, just to introduce yourself, just say hi. And then, hi, that's Diane. And then Evan Lebrecht, Assembly 107. You live in Rensselaer County, correct? Or in that area?
Yes.
That's Rensselaer one of the counties, right? Yeah, Rensselaer. And then Justin Pelletier from Monroe County. Thanks, Justin, for coming along. So I'll talk a little bit about this brutal process we have. So it used to be 15,000 signatures to get the presidential candidate on the ballot in New York. And every time since 1976, we were successful. So this will be 48 years. So every presidential election year, we've been able to get the candidate on the ballot. In the 2020-2021 budget, for various reasons, the number was increased for the petition drive from 15,000 signatures to 45,000 signatures. So it was tripled. And beyond that, before 2020, and I think a year or two before that, due to the effort to comply with the MOVE Act, Military and Overseas Voters Empowerment Act, they changed our petition period from July and August to April and May. And again, the April-May timeframe pushed us into this this need for doing stand-in candidates. So we got double whammy. We got to triple the signature count, plus having to use stand-in candidates in the spring now for the presidential election year. So it's really rough. So we need all hands on deck. We need every possible strategy we can use to get enough signatures. And one of the key strategies was to partner up with the only independent candidate in New York State, statewide candidate in New York State, who got on the ballot in 2022, and that's Diane Sare. So I'd like to address maybe a couple elephants in the room on that, because I've gotten some comments. Diane Sare is not a libertarian. She's with the LaRouche Party. Some of her volunteers don't necessarily well identify, let's say, with the libertarian platform. And likewise, some of the libertarian volunteers may not well identify with the LaRouche platform. But that's not our battle. Our battle, we're trying to slug it out against the Democrats and Republicans, the two-party duopoly, unibrow party system. We're trying to slug it out against them. And so we're partnering up just for the purpose of the petition drive. We get Diane on the ballot. We get our team on the ballot. Then she campaigns the way she wants to for her party. We campaign the way we want to for our party. We're asking voters to sign. Most of these voters are not identified with either of our parties either, right? We have to get many, many, many signatures. And these voters might not politically identify with us. But we're just saying, hey, please sign so there can be more competition, more opportunities for candidates to be on the ballot. So the voters' reluctance can go there. A couple of voter reluctance issues that I'd like to hit, maybe. And maybe Justin will hit some of this at the end, too. Well, I really like Biden, so I don't want to sign. Well, Biden's almost sure to win New York. If you're worried about Biden not winning New York, then, well, Trump's going to slam dunk the entire country, right? This is a solid blue state. If there's any risk of Biden losing New York, then he's not going to win the election. So, but if you like Biden, vote for him anyway. But you can still sign our petition to help us get on and get some competition. Same argument kind of goes for Trump. Oh, I really like Trump. I want to vote for him. Go ahead and vote for him. Not going to make much difference with your vote in New York. If you really want to help Trump, you probably should go, volunteer for a phone bank down in Pennsylvania, or some other real swing state where it would make a difference, So it's just the process of a voter signing the petition is just to give us an opportunity to compete. And I think, that's what we need more in these elections, not things that are pigeonholed into one particular candidate, but to have an opportunity. And again, what's the libertarians going to gain? We're going to get, maybe 1% or so. Well, if we keep our name out there, we're going to have opportunity to keep our name recognized and have more advocacy opportunities for legislative changes in New York State, better opportunities to run down ballot candidates, especially the local candidates for town boards, villages, school boards, etc. So it's beneficial to us to be able to get a president on the candidate in New York State for those reasons. And there's also a media coverage benefit if the Libertarian candidate gets on the ballot in all 50 states, because the media will be a little bit more forced to recognize us if we have the candidate on in 50 other states, in all 50 states, which has happened, many times before. I don't have the quote on that from 1976. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't, but quite in the recent few election cycles, we have had the presidential candidate on the ballot in all 50 states. So we'd like to continue that trend and not blow it this year. So with all that said, I'll move on now to Diane Sare to tell us a little bit about her petition plans and her candidacy and what she wants to do here this year, because she ran in 2022, so she's back again against a different competitor. Diane.
Yes, thank you. I would have gladly run against Schumer again if he were up in 2 years, but unfortunately, he's not. So I'm running against his partner in crime, Kirsten Gillibrand. And I would say, actually, Rich, and to some of the perhaps detractors of our collaboration on this, I think there's a couple major areas where my campaign, the LaRouche Party, such as it's called, agree strongly with the Libertarian Party. One is on freedom of speech, freedom of access. We have a situation in the United States where the citizenry has been sidelined. They're not involved in the debates. They're not allowed to be involved in the electoral process, and they don't even know about it. How many New Yorkers were aware that the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, were not able to even get on the ballot, but they had candidates who wanted to run for governor? Wouldn't many voters have wanted to hear an alternative voice, wanted to hear an alternative policy? Even if the candidate is not likely to win, how valuable is it to have someone get up in a debate and say, hey, I think we should stop warrantless wiretapping or end the NSA data collection on everybody? That's valuable. That can't be done if people can't get on the ballot. So I actually feel very strongly about collaborating for this, whether or not we agree on every issue. The other, which is more existential, is that we are on the brink of possibly a nuclear war, a world war. I don't know if it's going to be in Southwest Asia. Supposedly the IDF is pulling out of southern Gaza. Is that so they can drop a nuclear bomb like one of the Israeli cabinet ministers said early on? We know Netanyahu's game is just depopulation of the region. And I shouldn't really say Netanyahu because it's a Anglo-Dutch financial military war machine that's backing him, that's encouraging him. But that's very dangerous. They struck Iran technically by hitting the Iranian embassy consulate in Damascus, Syria. That has the potential to spread this spiral, this war out of control. The American people are complicit in genocide against 35,000 Palestinians who have died in Gaza, are dying of starvation by the day. Our government is providing the weapons, after all, and not providing the relief, the food, or anything else. And then the other situation is, of course, Ukraine. And think about this. So you get the American people out of the elections. You have the US in this conglomerate, NATO, and you have France going rogue and talking about sending ground troops into Ukraine. Now, who voted for that? What's the relationship of the American people to France sending ground troops to Ukraine? How does it look when Russia decides that they have to, and they said, you send French troops to Ukraine, we're going to kill them all. We're going to wipe them out. Then what happens? Is NATO involved? Now, I know in Germany, someone in the Alternative for Deutschland party raised the question, if France what happens if the French troops are killed in Ukraine? Does that cause Article 5? Is that like an attack on a NATO country? They concluded no. If a NATO member goes rogue and starts a war with Russia, it doesn't, that's not the same as Russia attacking France. But nonetheless, this is really scary. And the presidential candidates, Biden is completely gung-ho with every war he ever met. He gives lip service to telling Netanyahu to be more gentle. We're going to send a little more relief while we send 2,000-pound bombs. And then the American people need a voice. They need involvement. That's what the minor parties, independent candidates can do. So I just would say I'm actually very happy for this collaboration. I think it's really important. I think the Libertarian Party actually has a lot to bring to bear on local issues where it's the same problem. People are just getting steamrolled over by these wind turbines and solar. The local government doesn't have zoning rights anymore or control. Big corporations can come in and rip off your town. So I think this is important, and I'm really glad to cooperate. And because the Libertarian Party chose not to nominate a U.S. Senate candidate, then we have the happy situation this time that my campaign and the Libertarian slate, we can circulate the petitions together. There is no legal issue with the same voters signing both petitions. They can do that very easily in the same encounter. So I think if we work together, we can get twice as many signatures and increase the visibility of both campaigns.
Thanks, Diane. I'd like to address maybe one comment someone made, if I can get it to show correctly here. Well, I'll try one more time. A little bit scrolling problem here. Yeah, there you go. You guys and gals continue to talk about what people need to do for your campaign, and that's backwards. Yeah, I mean, you can always blame me for that, because I do not want to talk about my campaign because I don't have one. I'm a temporary candidate. I'm a stand-in candidate. If you want to check out, the real candidates that are running for Libertarian presidential race, there's a bunch of them. You can go to to the lp.org and look up some of those candidates. Mike Termott, I'm actually going to do a live with him on Tuesday night at 9 p.m. I'm hoping to get something with Chase Oliver soon too. Those are the real candidates running. I'm not. The challenge with the stand-in, it is backwards. We're having to petition with people that are temporary candidates. And if I was to start talking about my campaign, which doesn't exist, and my positions, which might not be the same as the real candidates' positions, I'd be just kind of confusing the issue. And my purpose really is to try to motivate people that have been involved in the Libertarian Party or have been involved in the LaRouche Party and Diane Sare, to motivate them all to get out and get signatures. It's just an odd situation we have. Now, Diane is the candidate. She's not a standing candidate. So she can talk about her campaign, and she certainly should, to help motivate people to get signatures for her. Unfortunately, the Libertarians, we're in a position where it's tough because, and I don't want to show any bias toward any particular candidate who is running. I'm trying to get equal time and effort to all of them. I've been sharing all their posts on Twitter and so on, because I'm just here for the petition drive. Once I'm going to go fade off in the background come early June. So I'm just trying, especially the volunteer effort. I'm really trying to speed up that volunteer effort. But it is a good point. I mean, you're going to hear a lot of talk from me about the petition drive, because that's what I'm here for. I'm not here for the campaign. Let's see. Let's go on now to Evan Lebrecht, Assembly Candidate 107, and tell us a bit about what this is a real candidate, not a stand-in. Tell us a bit what you're up to. What are some of the key issues you want to promote during your campaign, and anything you want to comment about the petition drive as well. I know you've got a couple things going with Chase Oliver to help get young people to get involved in the petitioning. So tell us what you're all about. Maybe a little background too, since you're kind of new on the scene.
Yeah, we can start with background. So, I'm only 21 years old. This is it's only been my second election actually voting, and it's been a process. I've never liked anything I've seen since a young age, even before I could vote. I wasn't happy with any choices ever, so it made me really look into minor parties. It made me want to find something where I felt home and I could push ideas that I actually believe in, not the rigmarole that the two major parties give us. So I wanted to get involved as soon as possible and not be another one of those people that want to see change and talk about change, but can't get up off the couch. I want to be the person out and active and making a difference in my world.
Good.
We can.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, a couple key issues that you wanted to mention. You mentioned a couple to me earlier today.
Yeah. So one of the major ones is I want to decrease the pay of assembly members in New York. So in 2022, they gave themselves a pay raise of 29% from 110,000 to 142,000. And this was mainly done just to be the highest paid assembly in the United States of America, in my opinion. California got a raise the year prior, so we decided that we must pay our members more, and I think it's an absurd amount. I mean, my counties on average make $70,000 a year, and we pay somebody $142,000 to represent us. I don't think that's fair, and I want to see that change. Another key issue I wanted to touch on is that I wanted to make town boards voluntary elected positions. That would save between $40,000 and $60,000 in taxpayer money and local budget money in almost every town in my district.
Cool. I just put up a little note there about someone asking about who can sign. Important question. I think sometimes we assume things, but yeah, if you've never encountered someone circulating a petition for any of the independent candidates, any registered voter living in New York State is eligible to sign. The only qualification is that you haven't signed for someone else for the same race. So if you already signed for someone else for president or U.S. Senate, then you wouldn't be able to sign for the Libertarian slate or Diane's respectively. But again, it's because we're two separate sheets. If you sign for Senate, you can't sign for Diane, but you can sign for us. If you sign for us, you can't sign our sheet, but you can sign Diane's. So, and a lot of times people don't know. Just try to be as honest as you can. If you're quite certain you have signed, then please don't sign again. If you're not positive, if you think you may have, you could sign. It might get challenged, but just don't commit deliberate fraud. Just try to be as honest as you can in putting out those signatures. Anything else you'd like to hit, Evan, that's important to you?
Yes, I want another major thing is I wanted to increase the tax exemptions for volunteer firefighters, EMS, and other volunteer positions, because I believe that they don't get their fair shake in tax breaks.
Okay.
Can I just say something on that?
Sure.
The petition question. You can sign only for one candidate for a particular office.
Right.
Just to be very clear. So if there's 5 people running for U.S. Senate, you may only sign one nominating petition for U.S. Senate. You may sign for someone running for president, but only one president. I know there are a number of independent presidential candidates who will be petitioning in New York. There's the Libertarian line, which has as Rich Pertel said, is a placeholder. Larry Sharp is going to be the top of that. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. probably is going to have a lot of volunteers petitioning. I've run into people who are going to be petitioning for Cornel West. I've even run into people who are going to petition for Dr. Shiva, who I don't think was born in the United States, but at any rate, they're petitioning to. So there will be, if you sign for one person for a given office, you're not supposed to sign for another. However, if those petitions aren't valid, suppose you sign for Cornell West and they only turn in 13,000 signatures, and you happen to also sign for the Libertarian slate, your signature will be valid on the Libertarian slate because Cornell West signatures failed. He didn't get on the ballot.
Right.
So, as Rich said, just be as honest as you can within the limitations of what you know. The main thing is to not commit fraud, to not make false statements, and be a registered voter, of course.
As long as you brought that up, Diane, let's get into maybe another little more complicated scenario, and that's witnessing for multiple candidates for the same office. You can do that. So you can be a witness for two different candidates for president or two different candidates for U.S. Senate during the independent nominating period. As you mentioned, there could be multiple. There probably will be multiple options for president during the independent period. But the key thing is you can be a witness, but don't sign any of them. If you sign as a voter, on any sheet for a petition for candidate X for president, you're going to cancel out all your witness sheets for candidate Y. So you cannot be a witness and signing as a voter for candidate X and then attempt to also be a witness for candidate Y. So we have some people that might actually be interested in witnessing for two or maybe even three different independent presidential candidates, which, you got to get different voters to sign them, right? You can't ask one voter to sign one sheet for president and then that same voter sign another sheet for president. We've said that can't be done, but you can witness to different voters for different sheets. A lot of work for someone to do that, but just the extreme caution to make as a witness is do not sign. Just leave yourself out as being a signing voter on any of those sheets, because that's going to get you in trouble. You could disqualify a whole lot of your effort if you accidentally sign as a voter. Just stick to being a witness, and that's it. Anything you wanted to add to that, Diane? Or
I know, for example, there were several Republican candidates for U.S. Senate. Josh Eisen, Cara Castronuova. I talked to a supporter. I'm friends with Cara. So it turns out one of my good supporters signed her petition. He cannot be a witness for me. He cannot circulate petitions for me unless it's deemed that she didn't get enough signatures or her petitions are disqualified. I don't know that. If someone signed a petition for Joe Biden, God forbid, I don't think anyone here would have done that. But if someone signed a petition for Joe Biden, they cannot circulate a petition for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., for example. So, yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Dan. Okay, moving on to Justin. You ready to speak, Justin? I see you're muted.
Yep. Yeah, that's just controlling for background noise.
Controlling for background noise, always respectful. Yeah. Sure. Okay. But Justin lives in the Rochester area in Monroe County, and maybe you could give us a little bit of background and what your plans are for this petition period. So he's not a candidate. His focus is on rallying the troops.
Yeah, thanks. So I think it's really important as we sort of work towards that ballot access window, that opens up on April 16, to get early and often the petitions in the hands of people who support what we're up to. And so one way that we're doing that is mailing our members, right? Here's a petition, here's some instructions, sign it, get your friends and family to sign it, send it back, drop it off, right? Either way. And so with the number of registered members that we've got in our area, we'll probably end up getting a few thousand signatures just by doing that. Now, it costs money to send things by mail, obviously, but there's alternatives to that with text banking and so on. I don't know that we'll end up doing all of the options, right? But I think that getting our members activated with petitions in their hands is got to be primary, right? Because that'll mobilize a lot more people. And even if you only average, let's say 2 signatures per member, right? Some aren't going to do it at all. Maybe 8 out of 10 won't do anything, but 2 of them probably get 10, maybe 20 signatures, depending on how many how motivated they are, and they can send it back, right? So you might average around 2 per, and so you can do the math and calculate that way. So that's going to be, I expect, a large return on our investment. But another is really prioritizing the time spent in high traffic areas. People waiting in lines are optimal because they're already in public and they're waiting for something and they got nothing better to do. Starting from the back, working to the front, so they don't have a cascading failure scenario where they see a bunch of people telling you no, they think that's what you do. So you kind of manage the line working too, and going to big events. So we'll try to get folks to volunteer to go out to some nightclubs that are packed in the evenings with a bunch of young voters, and see if we can get some signatures. I mean, obviously, if somebody's visibly intoxicated, their signature's invalid. But at the same time, there's a lot of folks that are out and looking to talk and socialize, smoking a cigarette outside or whatever. Get a signature petition in their hand, especially if the event is packed, there's a bunch of folks that could sign your petition. And so, we're trying to get those well done with short explanations of what you're asking them to do, and you can ask, as many people as you can in a minute, even if you're only getting a 20% return on asking. It's just a numbers game. And so the more people you can ask in a tighter crowd, the quicker you're going to get to yes. And sporting events, concerts, we got the Lilac Festival in Rochester coming up, bunch of events, right? These are all opportunities of people who are going to be waiting in lines going into the theater or whatever's going on in the park. And so those well done can yield about 50 signatures an hour. That's a really high return compared to a regular door knocking campaign where you're going house to house in a rural neighborhood, especially some of the suburbs around Rochester or something. We might only get 10, 15 an hour signatures by knocking on doors, and that's a good return, and it's a good good way to meet your neighbors and stuff. But at the same time, 15 hours more efficient use of the time. And so if you only have a few hours to spend and you get 20 people that are willing to go out with you, you can, each of you get 50 signatures. That's a pretty good investment of your time, isn't it? And so by targeting those kind of key events, right? Let's say churches letting out or something. Hey, there's a bunch of people going to their cars, they're mingling, whatever. You go hit it up for 15 minutes and get 15 signatures or something. That's not a bad way to invest the time. And now, of course, you're not going to be able to get all those. So you can also plan out, high density areas. Senior centers tend to be pretty good for folks who are interested in the elections process that might sign your petition. And they're usually pretty densely populated, right? So it's like an apartment building that you're going to get a lot of potential voters to sign. That could be maybe 20 or 30 votes an hour. And these are all conjecture. I mean, each person's going to have a different number, right? But that's kind of the return on investment that you can benchmark to plan your effort. And we're gunning for thousands of signatures in the Rochester metropolitan area. I'm hoping for 10,000 signatures just from our area. That's a bit of a stretch goal, admittedly, but it's not outside the realm of possibility with 1,500 registered voters, registered libertarian. And if we can get 10 or 20 folks to go out and do these kind of pointed events, if each person can spend 5-10 hours doing that during the ballot access window, we'll hit 10,000. We'll hit 10,000 signatures. That's it's a big number, but why do something if you're not gonna do it well? It'd be nice to get it even just a few thousand, but I want to be sort of leveraging this as an opportunity to spread the word about what we're up to. And a lot of the kind of punchline communication points are really good for us to build the party too. We want a smaller and more accountable government. Would you support a candidate that would advocate for that? We believe in personal freedom and lower taxes. Would you support a candidate to advance that goal? We think you should own your own choices and protect your rights. Please sign this petition. Get our candidate on the ballot to fight for that. Freedom's not given, it's taken. Take yours back. Sign the petition. Get more options on the ballot. These little kind of punch phrases are really good ways just to get people interested in what what's this all about. And if you have a little, a sticker, or I mean, you got to be careful about giving swag, right? But you can give um, them a pamphlet about what is libertarianism or something. That's not swag. That's not merchandise. It's not, Go ahead, Diane.
Justin, yeah, I wanted to ask about that. So what is the rule on not that my campaign has money to give out t-shirts or something,
Yeah,
but
right.
when you say swag, what is that? Is there such a rule that people can't, because it would be seen as a bribe or something for a signature?
I think that's the rationale behind the rule. And something as small as a button could be contrived, could be construed as something of monetary value, and therefore, buying a vote or buying a petition signature or something like this. I think it's a bit of a stretch to go that far, right? But just to play it safe, here's a postcard with some information on it and a QR code that they can snap a picture on or whatever. But just giving something to keep growing the movement, I think, is seeing through the effort and supporting our candidates in a direct way, going into November, and growing the party along the way. Anyway, I don't know if that covers everything that folks want to hear about kind of local efforts, and I'm happy to field any questions that anybody's got. Let's see. I need to go to county legislature. There's some comments here.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where that's directed to. Let me follow up on a point you made. Absolutely agree with you. People have a limited amount of time. You want to try to go to high volume places to get as many signatures per hour, because people have, are busy, have limited number of hours to help. But sometimes, though, door knocking does have some benefits. Me personally, I twisted the arm of a friend who lives in Broome County. He's a member of the Broome County legislature, and he's going to petition for himself for the Libertarian line. At the same time, he's going to get signatures for the statewide slate. And then the other part of his district, he's got 6,500 voters left in his district to get signatures from. He's going to cover a small part of his district. I'm going to cover most of his district, and I'll be going door knocking I'll start out with him because he's known and popular in the area. I'll ask them voters to sign for him because he's known and popular on the Libertarian line, and then I'll ask for the statewide slate, and then I'll ask for Diane. So I'll be asking all these voters to sign all three. But I'm using the local candidate who's well known and popular as the icebreaker. So that reduces your rejection ratio. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly slower going door knocking versus in a parade or any kind of major event. But if you do it right, you can hopefully get a lower rejection rate. And then by me partnering up with this gentleman, he's going to get a bunch of signatures too. So I'm kind of doubling my number right off the gate, because I think he's going to be very successful getting signatures. But that can be a strategy. I mean, just be careful if people that are active in the Libertarian Party want to get people who are already on a Democrat or Republican line to also circulate our petition. Because just to explain that, New York is exceptional in the use of ballot fusion, meaning that a candidate can run on multiple party lines. A lot of states don't do that, or there's a couple of states that only do it for the presidential election. But New York uses it extensively. I've always actually been kind of critical of it because it tends to create these what I call parasite parties. The Conservative Party isn't really that much standing on its own in New York. The Working Families Party is not really standing that much on its own in New York. If you go back in history, the Working Families Party and what Cuomo did to them, with the whole Zephyr teach-out effort, he kind of killed the party and slapped them in line and said, okay, you basically have to endorse the Democrats if you want to continue to survive, instead of trying to run your own separate candidates. So yeah, fusion's got its good and bad points, but in local elections, if you got a popular candidate who's libertarian leaning, and they've already petitioned, I think actually the deadline might be this Tuesday for the designated period. There's only a week left, but maybe you can get a couple of them to consider also going for the Libertarian line. Again, if they're pretty good in line with us on principles, and get that candidate to go door knocking for themselves, and have a local Libertarian help them as well, and then ask that candidate to also help our statewide slate, and if they want, help Diane too. So there's lots of opportunities to get signatures, and we have to turn every rock, look at every option, because this, because as we said at the beginning, it used to be 15,000, it went to 45. That's triple. But I would argue that the change from July and August to April and May was just as harmful. So if you put the two together, it's almost 10 times harder now to petition than it was back in 2018, because we're New York weather, right? I mean, 2 years ago, one of the problems with the 2022 petition is upstate New York had a terrible snowstorm. My mother, I know, lost power for 3 days. So we had a terrible snowstorm right at the beginning of the petition drive. So if you're so inclined, pray for good weather. Yeah, let's have good weather, especially in the first week. I think it's extremely important. Again, the 2020 petition drive for the Libertarian Party wasn't successful. Another elephant in the room, which I may have mentioned at the beginning, I forget, is we've got people that are kind of negative and sitting on their hands, and people like Justin and myself and Evan and others that want to try to make this happen. It's important we get off to a fast start and get our sheets turned in quickly, so that we can have a positive first week, good numbers in the first week and a half, so that we can get the people off the sidelines that are too upset and negative about what happened in 2022, because we need everybody. We need all hands on deck, and we got to start out with some positive results in the first week or two. And I think the same thing goes with cooperating with Diane. If we got some of this potential of hesitancy between the two campaigns helping each other, so Diane and I are really going to work really hard as leaders to help each other, set an example, so that hopefully everyone else follows suit, because she made it last time. Let's be truthful about that, but I'm sure she'd like it if she gets some help, so she doesn't have to have all her volunteers just about dropping dead by the end of the 6 weeks. I think, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, at least next time you'll get a break, right? Unless you run for something else. There's no U.S. Senate candidate in 26, but maybe you'll run for Congress or something. We'll cross that bridge after this year's over, right? So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the corroboration with Diane, I think, will be a big part if we play that well. I think that'll be a big part of our success for both teams if we properly execute that corroboration. And so I think we can get it done. It's going to be a big task. The thing is, the paid petitioning drive is still even not mobilized. And I've always been a bit critical of it, because the unfortunate nature of paid petitioning is that once you start to say we'll offer paying for something, then volunteers tend to wither, because okay, oh, you're going to pay people, okay, you don't need me then. But the paid petitioning drive doesn't have really a start yet, and even if it did, you have to look at value. And if we did this all with paid petitioning, it would cost something like $800,000. And would it be worth paying $800,000 to put a candidate on the ballot in New York State, when the probability of reaching 2% of the vote and obtaining constituted party status again is small? I just don't think it's worth spending all that money. If we did have that much money, we could use it for other purposes. But is the volunteer effort worth it? I guess how much blood, sweat, and tears are libertarians and our friends willing to expend in New York to see that we get a candidate on the ballot in all 50 states? And every state benefits from that. I've been making that pitch. I've been messaging people all over the country, saying that no matter where you are in the country, if we get a candidate on the ballot in New York, and we can use that 50 state ballot presence as a bragging right, that benefits every state in the country. They'll have a higher performance and result from the libertarian candidates if we're on in all 50 states versus 46, 47, 48. Having all 50 gets us a little more media attention. Now let's face it, the media is stuck on the duopoly. George Washington criticized the two-party system. And unfortunately it does create this scenario of the media being a bit lazy. It's easier to just have two teams, right? Make it very galvanized and simplified. And I think having more parties, it makes the job harder for the media, but I think it makes for a better media, a better educated voter. I just think the benefit of multiple parties is there. And I voted for Ross Perot back 30 years ago. So I'm 60. Yeah, old man. So anyway, coming up on 40 minutes. Yeah, I was trying to keep this about 45 minutes. Let's go maybe just a closing comments to each of you. How about to Justin first, and then I'll wrap up with Diane. I'll go Justin, Evan, then Diane. So any closing comments, Justin?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to remember that we have a chance to do something, and our country desperately needs it. And so, working to grow this effort, create more options for citizens to vote for what they believe in, it should be important to everybody. And so, we need to remember that and use that as a motivation to get out and get ballot access. I mean, get our people on the ballot. And I'm kicking myself, Rich, because you brought up a fantastic point about the local candidate, and leading with the local candidate. I'm happy to report that we have a Libertarian candidate for the 25th district, representative in U.S. Congress, Luther LeBron Lane, who's running against Joe Morelli. And so, that's a fantastic point that I'm kicking myself. I didn't mention it, Rich, but we're really happy that we have some other options that we're going to be able to present voters. That's my 2 cents anyway. Look forward to seeing you out there.
Cool. And who did I say second? I forget. Evan?
Evan.
Okay. Evan, give us closing comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to use my closing comments to double back to what you said about our joint effort with Diane. I feel like it's very important that we double down on this. Me and her have spoken. She's going to help me out, and I'm going to help her out. And I think that's very important for both of us. We need each other to make this as easy and efficient as possible. And I think it's important we all know that.
Thanks, Evan. Diane?
Great. Yeah, I agree. I wanted to add one thing, which I don't know if it was totally clear to the viewers, which is since the requirement's 45,000, they will try to knock off whatever they can if you're only over by a small margin. So we really want to I filed 66,000 signatures last time, and that was after throwing out 3,000 because of one of these signing witness mistake things. We need to be aiming for 70,000 signatures or more each. You really want to have, and especially with all of these people signing and circulating for different things, I think we really want to be well over. So it's a massive job. I also would say get a little blood on the tooth, so to speak. The people who are trying to silence us are a bunch of bastards. They're destroying the country, they're destroying civilization, and they don't want people to be on the ballot. So here's our opportunity to get even. If we work together, we can get people on the ballot who are not part of this gigantic, whatever you want to call it, duopoly, slime mold billionaires set. And we should have fun doing it. And it's not a difficult thing to go out and get signatures. It takes time, but let's really stick it to them. That's why I want this to work. I'm going to get a lot of candidates on the ballot, and I'm going to fight for debates where everyone is included. And I think everyone should take that spirit. You people are not going to do this to us anymore, and we're not going to sit back silently and just go away.
Yep. So let me make one closing comment on that, and that is the request to, if you're enrolled Democrat or Republican and you're sick of the party you're in, people stay in those parties sometimes. Well, I want to participate in primaries. Primaries are becoming kind of a joke because it's the party bosses who really control who gets to run in the primary. In 2019, we actually had a sore loser opportunity with the district attorney in Broome County. His name was Mike Korchak, and he lost the Republican Party primary, and because he didn't want to play the Republican Party game, and he was able to get on as the Libertarian candidate, and he won. So, which is probably it was probably the highest elected position ever in New York State for a Libertarian. And I was proud to be part of that campaign. But yeah, that was a way to slug it out. But yeah, he didn't want to play with the team, so the Republican Party kind of sandbagged him in New York, and actually he lives in the district that I'm going to be petitioning for. How's that for funny? But yeah. So why are you staying in the party? If I mean the primaries are kind of a joke. Your vote is anonymous. If you really want to show your disgust with the two-party system, then consider changing your party enrollment. Enroll in any, and start with the thought to just be unaffiliated, be an independent, a true independent. So that you would show a blank on the voter registration roll. Hey, that'd be a win. You'd be punching the major parties in the nose. Or check out the LaRouche platform, the Green Party platform, the Libertarian Party platform. Check us all out. And if there's another third party that fits you better than Democrat or Republican, then please consider enrolling in that third party, because we all are struggling. And the best way to gain relevance is by having more people enrolled in the party, because your vote's anonymous. You're making more of a statement by enrolling in a party that best fits your values, instead of staying stuck in these two old obsolete parties because you feel like, well, that's the only way that someone can win. That's the only way, they got you captured. And it's time that the American people just say enough is enough. Both major parties are corrupt. They've been getting worse every election cycle, and there's no end in sight unless the American people start pushing back. And one of the best ways to push back is to change your enrollment. Leave those parties. Leave them behind. All right, everybody, thanks for your time tonight. And we're looking forward to getting out on the trail another week and 9 days. So Tuesday the 16th, first day of petitioning. Anyone who wants to help, don't make the mistake of starting too early. That's one reluctance of the petition sheets out early. If you're super enthused, that's great, but don't get signatures on the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, because they won't count. They'll be subtracted. We don't want you losing out on your valuable time. So Tuesday, April 16th, the start date. Final date it submits the 28th of May. However, with this many signatures, whether it's Diane or us, we don't have an army of 500 people to staple all these together. You're talking about a stack of paper about 8 feet high. So it's a lot of work just to bind it all together. So really, we want to have all the signatures in by the 21st to give us a final week to check everything over, bind them together. Diane doesn't have this problem, but for the presidential candidate, we have the problem of proving that we have at least 500 signatures in it and at least half the congressional districts in New York. So we got to separate volumes for that purpose. So
I have that too. I do have
really?
to do that. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was necessary for Senate. Oh, that's too bad. That's kind of a pain too. Yeah.
It is a pain in the butt. We had to do it last time. It was awful. You remember last time that we didn't have any districts when we were petitioning. They came up with the congressional lines 9 days before the filing.
Right. And then you had to verify you were in the right districts. Yeah. Yep. So thank you, everybody. Let me show one last. I'm not sure. The Facebook users often come up as anonymous, but thank you, everyone, for your comments tonight, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.